Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to dive into one of the most fascinating and controversial topics in modern military defense. Israel has long been considered one of the most advanced countries when it comes to military technology. From its world-famous Iron Dome air defense system to the heavily armored Merkava tanks, Israel has always projected an image of strength and security. But what if I told you that even with all this firepower, there are threats that these systems cannot fully stop? That's what we're going to unpack in this discussion, and by the end, you might see that the so-called fatal error lies not only in technology but also in assumptions. The Iron Dome is often praised as a game changer. It was first introduced to counter short-range rockets and artillery shells fired mainly from Gaza. The system works by detecting incoming projectiles and then intercepting them with a guided missile in the air before they land. Success rates are advertised at over 90%, and there is no doubt that it has saved countless lives. However, no system is perfect, and even the Iron Dome has blind spots. Its radar can be overwhelmed by sheer volume. If thousands of rockets are launched at once, the system simply cannot track and intercept them all. This is one of the key weaknesses that adversaries have learned to exploit. Now let's talk about the Merkava tank. Designed and manufactured in Israel, the Merkava is one of the heaviest armored tanks in the world. It was engineered with crew survival as the #1 priority. With advanced armor, powerful cannons, and modern electronics, it has long been seen as the backbone of the Israeli ground forces. But in recent conflicts, we have seen that even the Merkava can be destroyed. Portable anti-tank weapons like the Russian Kornet missile or newer drones carrying precision charges have managed to take them out. When this happens, it shocks many observers who believed the Merkava was virtually invincible. So, what's the fatal error here? The mistake lies in the belief that technology alone can guarantee safety. Israel has built systems that are indeed advanced, but war constantly evolves. Adversaries don't need to match Israel's billion-dollar technology. They just need cheap, effective, and creative solutions. A homemade rocket costs a few $100s to build, but it forces Israel to fire an interceptor that costs tens of thousands of dollars. That imbalance creates both financial and strategic pressure. In the case of tanks, a single soldier with an affordable shoulder-launched weapon can destroy a multi-million-dollar vehicle. This is the uncomfortable truth behind the headlines. When we look deeper, the Iron Dome was designed primarily for short-range threats. But the Middle East is now filled with medium and long-range missiles that are more powerful, faster, and more difficult to intercept. Hezbollah in Lebanon, for example, has reportedly amassed tens of thousands of rockets, some of them with advanced guidance systems. In a large-scale conflict, Iron Dome alone cannot handle that challenge. Israel has other layers of defense, such as David's sling and arrow systems, but every system has limits. The sheer mathematics of war favor the side that can launch more cheaply and in greater volume. The Merkava tanks face a similar problem. Tanks are powerful when fighting against other tanks or in open battles. But modern warfare is increasingly urban and asymmetric. Instead of meeting enemy armies in the desert, tanks often roll into crowded cities where militants hide in tunnels, basements, and narrow streets. In such environments, tanks become vulnerable targets. Small drones, improvised explosives, and ambush tactics can all neutralize the advantages of heavy armor. This is why, despite their superior technology, Merkava tanks have been knocked out in Lebanon and Gaza. Another fatal flaw is psychological. Technology can create a sense of overconfidence. If leaders and soldiers believe that Iron Dome will intercept almost everything, they may underestimate the danger of mass rocket fire. If they think tanks are unstoppable, they might send them into environments where they are actually highly vulnerable. Overconfidence leads to risky strategies, and risky strategies often result in casualties and surprise defeats. History is filled with examples of powerful armies being humbled because they believed their weapons made them untouchable. Let's not forget the economic angle. Each Iron Dome interceptor is expensive. Israel produces many, but they are not limitless. In a prolonged conflict with tens of thousands of rockets, the cost of defending every civilian target becomes unsustainable. At some point, hard choices have to be made. Do you defend cities, military bases, infrastructure? The attacker only has to spend a fraction to keep the pressure going. This war of attrition plays directly into the hands of groups that do not need sophisticated weapons to achieve their goals. Tanks, too, are expensive to build and maintain. Training crews, fueling, repairing, and upgrading them costs billions of dollars. Meanwhile, anti-tank weapons are getting cheaper and smarter every year. Drones that can loiter above battlefields and drop explosives onto tank hatches cost only a tiny percentage of what a single tank is worth. This creates an imbalance that technology alone cannot erase. No matter how thick the armor, if enough cheap drones are sent, the tank will eventually be destroyed. Some analysts argue that the biggest threat is not rockets or missiles, but swarms of drones. Unlike traditional rockets, drones can change direction, fly low to the ground, and even coordinate in groups. This makes them harder to detect and intercept. Iron Dome was not built to counter massive drone swarms. And tanks, no matter how powerful, cannot shoot down aerial threats buzzing above them. This represents a new battlefield that Israel and many other countries are only beginning to adapt to. The fatal error might be failing to prepare for the next evolution of warfare while relying too heavily on the tools of the past. Another important factor is human determination. Technology can delay or minimize casualties, but it cannot erase the will of a determined enemy. When groups are willing to absorb losses, hide among civilians, and continue launching attacks, even the most advanced defense systems face limits. History shows that wars are not always won by the side with the most advanced weapons, but by the side with the most resilience and creativity. This is why Israel, despite its advanced arsenal, still faces ongoing security challenges. So, can Iron Dome and Merkava tanks stop everything? The answer is no. They can stop a lot, and they can reduce damage significantly, but not completely. The fatal error is to believe they can achieve total security. This belief may lead to strategic decisions that ignore diplomacy, social issues, and the root causes of conflict. Technology can defend borders, but it cannot solve political problems. It cannot remove hatred, inequality, or historical grievances. When those issues remain unresolved, new forms of threats will always appear. As we reflect on this, it's also worth remembering that every defense system in history eventually meets a countermeasure. The castle walls were broken by cannons, the battleships were sunk by aircraft, the tanks of World War II eventually faced portable rockets. The Iron Dome and Merkava are just the latest chapters in this cycle. They are powerful, yes, but not permanent answers. The moment one side builds a shield, the other side invents a sharper sword. This endless cycle is the reality of military technology. Now imagine a future battlefield where hypersonic missiles are common. These weapons travel so fast that existing defense systems cannot react in time. If those ever reach Israel's enemies, the Iron Dome would be obsolete against them. Similarly, imagine artificial intelligence guiding cheap drone swarms directly onto tank columns. In such a scenario, no amount of armor will be enough. This is why military planners around the world are racing to find the next generation of defense, but the cycle will always continue. This leads us back to the heart of the issue. The Iron Dome and Merkava tanks are impressive achievements, but they are not perfect. Believing they are invincible is the fatal error. The truth is, no weapon is ever invincible. Human ingenuity on both sides of conflict, ensures that weaknesses will always be found. For Israel, this means constant adaptation, constant innovation, and perhaps most importantly, a recognition that technology cannot solve everything. The lesson here is not just for Israel. Every nation that relies too heavily on advanced weapons faces the same risk. Superpowers have lost wars to much weaker opponents because technology did not guarantee victory. The United States in Vietnam, the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, and even recent examples in the Middle East all show the same pattern. Technology helps, but it is not the final answer. Overconfidence in technology is often the true fatal error. So, when you hear about the Iron Dome intercepting rockets or the Merkava dominating battlefields, remember that there is another side to the story. Yes, they are powerful, but no, they are not unstoppable. The reality is more complex, and acknowledging these vulnerabilities is essential for any serious analysis of modern warfare. To ignore them is to repeat the mistakes of history. Thank you for watching, and I hope this breakdown has helped you see the issue from a deeper perspective. Make sure to share your thoughts below. Do you think Israel can maintain its edge with these systems, or do you believe new technologies and tactics will eventually bypass them? Let's continue the discussion.